good to see you all. And I'd love to just start with a short moment of centering so we can all arrive together in this space. So, inviting us to sit comfortably and if it feels good, to close your eyes. Take a breath. And just notice what's happening inside of you right now. What's happening in your body, especially around the front of your body, from the abdomen to the chest, throat, face. And whatever you notice, whatever you're feeling, welcoming it to be just as it is, allowing all the sensations to unfold themselves just as you feel them. And the same with your heart space and your emotions, tuning in to feel. And welcoming your whole heart as it is in this moment. And allowing and welcoming your mind with all its thoughts and all its movements, the state of mind. Letting it be, welcoming the whole mind. And the whole being, body, heart, and mind, and longings, and all the levels and layers of being. Welcoming all of yourself into this moment, just as you are. We're inviting another breath. Hmm. And slowly and gently bringing your attention into this space that we share. And welcome to this session. My name is Mironel Duat, and I'd like to offer a session now on self-compassion and what it means to enter more and more into a love relationship with life. So I will offer a little introduction and also how it's connected to nonviolent communication, and then take any comments, questions. Then I'd like to offer a practice and a technique. I've maybe demonstrated a little bit, and then I'll send you off to practice in pairs and come back to see how it went. So that's my idea for this time together. And I wanna put the emphasis, the domain of self-compassion is unfolding in what I would call our relationship with life. So life is always happening. We're having a whole variety of experiences inward experiences and outward experiences. And then we have a relationship with those experiences. Do we resist them, reject them? Do we welcome them, allow them? Do we embrace them with unconditional love? Do we fight against them and wish they would change or go away? That's the domain of our relationship with life. The response that we have to whatever is happening, both internally, the response that we have to our feelings, to our longings, and the response that we have to the outer world. And in nonviolent communication, there is, we could say, a process which starts with the outer world. We say observations are what we see and take in with the five senses. And then we bring that experience inside and we notice our honest response to what we're observing. And our honest response to what we're observing is how we feel. And our feelings are messengers of our needs, of our values, of what matters to us. And then from a connected place with what matters to us, we go back to the outer world and we might make requests of others or ourselves to take actions and implement strategies to make life more wonderful. So this is the brief kind of overview of nonviolent communication as a process. And the domain of self-compassion is in this domain of the feelings and the needs. So when it comes to the inside domain, the internal experience. And for me, what is essential in this domain, as we turn our attention inside, is that there is a possibility as we connect within ourselves to have an important shift in how we are relating to what's happening, as well as how we are relating to our experience of what's happening. So for me, feeling our feelings is not just to identify, let's say, like from a feelings list, what they are and have a cognitive awareness, but it's also to deeply listen to what that feeling is there to tell us, to deeply hear the message of the feeling, which in NVC terms is the need. And so then again, it's not just to name a need cognitively, picking a need from a needs list, but it's to attune to what that need really means to you, how that need lives in you, what it means to have this encounter with yourself in what's important to you. And so this is the invitation of self-compassion, is to enter into a certain kind of intimacy with the feeling space and the needing space, so that the innate knowledge, I even want to call it like the wisdom of how you are orienting to what touches you, what matters, can speak to you. So this is a process where we get into contact with our own aliveness, with an openness to be changed by it. So it's not with the idea of just, let's say, becoming aware of it, naming it, maybe communicating it to other people. Oh, I'm feeling frustrated because I need more consideration. It's to actually feel the frustration, the heat, the irritation, the tension, the contraction. And it's to attune to consideration, care, what it means to be loved, respected, held in your own mattering. And attuning to that as a value that's arising within you will change you. And it will change your response. So it's not something that can happen in your mind. It's something that happens in a level of attunement, or we can sometimes say in the felt sense of being connected to what matters. And in this way, we're making a shift from doing NVC to being NVC. doing NVC is when we are very nice with our words and our language, and we can formulate sentences in what we could call giraffe structure. And sometimes it might land and sometimes it won't land because there might be a discrepancy between how we've formulated words and what's really happening within our system. There might still be, I don't know, a lot of jackal thoughts, a lot of judgments. And when we put an overlay of giraffe on top of an underlay of jackal, then people will often question our authenticity and like, hey, but is that what you really mean? I don't quite believe you. So the invitation here is to drop in to what you really mean and speak from that place, from a depth of attunement, rather than from a formulation of words. And this is not to say that learning how to formulate words and speak giraffe isn't a super helpful step in orienting our consciousness. And I just want to remember that words are there to orient our consciousness. They're pointers for our awareness to follow. They're holders of meaning that is lived within us and not the meaning itself. So the invitation here is to connect to and attune to the meaning itself, and then see what happens and see how it changes you. So actually, this is all I wanted to say as an introduction, and I'd be open if there's anything coming up for anyone before we go further, and also curious. Yeah, Roberta.
Hello, thank you. This word attunement made me reflect a lot, gave me a lot of aliveness, because I see many people, and me included in the past, when some things in life, can be the family you built, the job you built, are not attuning to your true self anymore. So this attunement is really something very sharp inside that can create also things in the body like sickness, disease, and headaches, chronic sleepless nights, And I found myself, included people around me, that is very, very difficult to reach it once you are not attuning anymore to what you built so far. So let's say the attunement follows the process of change. Like we change, and things that we thought were attuning to us, now they're not attuning anymore. So I like to think to honor the attunement. That is kind of goal for us to keep attunement alive with our challenge and with our courage to attune with the change of life. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you too. And I resonate with that. And for me, yeah, it very much starts as this inner practice that I attune to the truth of my being. And the truth of my being is a unique, singular quality of my authenticity, who I really am, what I really value, what really matters to me. And as that becomes kind of more and more available to me, then naturally it becomes reflected outside. Sometimes that can also be, as you said, like in a bit of a harsh way, like relationships end or jobs or end or certain things can happen. And very often it's also just a very subtle, more soft, just I'm spending more time like this and less time like that. I'm deepening my conversations. I'm checking on my friends. How are you really? And so then that attunement can also show up in a very gentle deepening rather than any kind of big shifts, and both. And for me, it's a dynamic process. It's ongoing. It's not like a state that I reach, but it's like I cultivate kind of moment by moment. Yeah. Thank you. Ramona.
Hi, I'm
Hi,
really happy to
Ramona.
be here. Um, I want to ask whether when I feel like I used the giraffe words or just any words, but I know, or at least I have really a sense that I was not in a fire, anger energy or blaming energy, but just stating things, and the other person is still defending, then is it necessarily that I have some of this energy within and that I just didn't notice? Or is it also possible that however I will state these things, that the other person will interpret blame into it or judgment or whatever, even if it wasn't there on my side?
So yeah, it takes two to tango, as we say. And so um, if you are speaking something that lands in a wounded part of another person, it's kind of impossible to stop them from taking it on. You could say like they might just take it on because it hits them in a wounded place. So then no matter how you would say it, um, they might still take it on as blame. And yet, in the vast majority of cases, if you can be fully attuned to what's important for you and speak really only from a place of affirming your value and without even a trace of blame or expectation that they should be different, then it'll almost always land, even when it's a difficult thing to hear or hitting something that they hold painful. It'll almost still always land with a certain kind of openness. So it's kind of like this. You can have degrees of attunement to your truth. And if you're really at that 100% degree, it'll almost always land quite well, even though it's hard. And if you're even at a 97% degree, then it still might land badly because they also have their own issue in that domain. So it's kind of like, and it's hard to reach 100. 100 is really like, to reach 100, you need to hit rock bottom and go further. So it's like you need to get to the fullness of what matters to you, hold it fully within your wholeness, and still go a bit further before you can really honestly say, I set you free. And when you can really honestly say, I set you free to be as you are, I set you free to behave as you do, and I'm only here expressing from my truth, then it will almost always land, at least in a constructive way that there's a way of going forward together. Doesn't make it fun, doesn't make it pleasant, but it does make it productive, constructive.
Yeah.
But that I honestly set you fully free. I mean, it's such an incredible state that is so difficult to
Mhm.
reach when you're in your own pain, and some of it, even a little bit, is being projected onto that
Mhm.
person.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks
um,
for that.
so it takes two, and if you can reach that fullness, then it doesn't matter even how much they're wounded. But if you don't reach that fullness, then even their little bit of wounding will still entangle. Yeah.
Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah. Caroline.
Hello.
Hi.
I really liked your image, putting a giraffe over the jackal. And because, yeah, I studied psychology and I'm really new to NVC. And there I always tell myself, oh, I should know better, and blah and blah and blah. And there, like other therapists, also sometimes I was wondering why I get mixed messages, because in this community, and I heard from a few people from the breakout sessions that they are practicing NVC for a few years, and always have sometimes the feeling that they like have like they judge themselves because they should know better. So that was really interesting. And then I was like thinking, maybe it's also because of my gender, like anger and females is sometimes a little bit like difficult, like you have to be a nice girl and things like this. So I was asking myself, why do I do like putting a giraffe sometimes about my jackal, and why do other people do it? And also, why is it often in communities like with a lot of consciousness about these, that there are sometimes often more giraffes about the jackals? Because, do you get me? Like, it's sometimes even they know the techniques. I have sometimes like the impression that it's so there's so much I should already know it. So there are sometimes more mixed messages with like talking and non-verbal communication. Like, yeah, that was like an observation, but I really like this picture, like, yeah, putting two layers above each other.
Yeah, thank you. Um, I can say a lot more about it. I'll just say a little bit more about it because I think it's really important. Because the picture kind of goes like this for me. We have our observations, and observations are, we could call it reality. It's what we see and it's what we share as a common reality. This is what's happening. Put it in neutral terms, that's just what's happening. And then on top of what's happening, we have our layer of judgments. And especially when we're beginning, in the beginning, we think, oh, we're going to get rid of this layer of judgments. It's going to go away. And I'll just have a layer of, I don't know, loving contact with what's happening. And then instead of that, on top of the layer of judgments, which we start to deny, we put a layer of giraffe, baby giraffe, we call it. And then a layer of giraffe on top of the jackal, which is on top of reality, takes us even farther away from reality. So we're 2 steps removed, because judgments are already an overlay onto reality. Judgments are already a veil of imposed ideas on reality. Judgments are not reality ever. They're always something on top, a layer on top. So we have reality, we have a layer on top of reality, then we have a layer on top of that, and we're really far away now. So when we get a little further in the process, we realize that our judgments are never going anywhere. And then we can get back to that 1 step closer to reality by admitting that we have these judgments. And then listening to them, we can actually hear what they're trying to tell us more deeply. And then we're actually getting closer to reality. So instead of going on top of the judgments, we go through the judgments. And we're back to a layer closer to the reality. And of course, it's the reality of our own heart. That we can have a more direct relationship with what we're observing by going through the judgments and not trying to go around the judgments or over the judgments. So as we become, let's say, maybe a little more self-aware, we understand judgments are never going anywhere, and I need to make friends with them, and they are in fact the gateway to my truth, and they're not an enemy to my truth, and that gives us access to what we could call the natural giraffe or the authentic NVC, which is not an overlay but a truth of the heart. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, Dave, and then I'll go to the next thing. So we'll just hear you next.
Hi there. Miranel, my feelings about what you've said about attunement and authenticity, I feel very relieved to hear this, because I feel like it's something that's very important to me. I find myself very sensitive to non-verbal communication and tone of voice, and when verbal and non-verbal don't line up in some way. And in particular with attunement, both like tuning up inside and also attuning to others. I've often found myself thinking of a bit of a musical analogy, which I found quite helpful, and I was wanting to share here. I sort of see each human being as 2 musical instruments, the heart and the mind. And the heart is always playing. You know, they say that people are always communicating, even when they're not saying words, but there's still lots of non-verbal communication occurring, and it's really not that much in our control. So the heart is making this tone, and it might be a simple quiet tone, or it might be a complicated loud tone. And like my first sort of task is to tune my mind to my heart, to sort of come into some internal harmony. Uh, because if I don't do that and I present myself to people out of tune, then it's going to sound like noise. But then it can also be that even though I'm in tune, the music is tense or complex, but it's still music, and it can still be experienced as congruent. I was going to mention congruence as well. I don't know if you're familiar with this term from counseling, but that the alignment of the internal and the external, the verbal and the non-verbal, is just being musical to me. And then from that position of sort of internal music, to then be able to attune to another, whichever tone their heart is producing, however they are singing their mind along with their heart. And the ultimate goal for me is always just for there to be music, rather than noise. Even if it means that that music it has to go through some tension, it has to go through some negative feelings, but there's tension in music and it's still music. And with tension, you also get release. So I see us as musicians of the heart. That's what I want to share.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. I love that, and I resonate a lot. Yeah, I see it exactly that way. And um, the attunement of the mind and the heart means then the mind is like a true sound box for the heart, and it really amplifies or translates. I often use this term translation of the heart's music into, let's say, the speakers, and it's a faithful transmitter. And then even if someone else is not having that attunement, we can still attune to their heart, even and listen to it, even if their mind is not so attuned itself. But we can still hear beyond their words and into their music. So I love that picture, and well, or soundscape rather than picture. So thank you. Yeah, and I'd love to go on with the practice itself, because this is what I'd really like to spend most of our time on, so that you can actually do this attuning that we're talking about between mind and heart and the rest of the being. So the practice of self-compassion goes into 3 phases. It's an internal, personal practice. The practicality of it is you would be with a partner and you would be guiding your own process inside your own inner world while verbalizing continuously, saying out loud, moment by moment, the content of your inner experience. So this is the format, we could say, that you are speaking as a commentary of what is happening inside of you. And this verbalization actually is very important to what Dave just said about letting the mind be involved in this transmission. So your mind becomes a faithful commentator, translator, transmitter of the content of the heart. If you don't verbalize and you just sit in your own silence, you miss this link to involve the mind and also to involve the conscious presence, the open presence of your partner. So the mind makes the link, both within your own system to what we could call this cognitive level and to the communication part by putting it into language. So it's a very important dimension of the process. So in phase 1, we consciously step into the sacred space of our inner world. And I like to think of this like you're stepping into a holy place. Your inner world is the sacred space of the unfolding of your being, of your heart, soul, meaning, whatever way you want to call it, it's the ground of you. So it's like you imagine stepping into a cathedral, a temple, the holy place that touches you. And then it's up to you if you want to do this process with your current state of being. And you can absolutely continue with just being as you are. And the other possibility is that you will bring in an aspect of your experience that you have a sense would benefit and appreciate your loving presence and your compassion. So you might connect to the memory of something that was painful or difficult recently. And I recommend to start with something that matters to you and is yet not of an enormous intensity, because I focus on building the skill of self-compassion first before applying it to big and intense experiences of your life. So something that bothers you, something that's not going that well in your life, you can bring in the notion of that, the memory of that. It could be an image, could be a person who you think about, a memory, yeah, as I said. So this is in phase one. You step into your own sacred space, and then you choose to connect to something that was difficult or not. And then phase two is to welcome unconditionally everything that arises. Whatever you think, whatever you feel, whatever comes up, you welcome it unconditionally. There might be emotions coming up, and you welcome them. There might be thoughts coming up, and you welcome them. The intention is not, however, to get onto the thought train and to keep storytelling. The intention is to stay in the present moment with what's arising. So if a thought comes up, we name it, and yet we don't go with it, and then the next one and the next one, and keep going. You check when you think your thought, how does it feel? And also, where does it show up in the body as a sensation? So I'm really grounding on these three levels: the body, the heart, the mind. And a fourth level that I want to bring in is also, what does it mean to you? And that is where the attunement actually happens. When I'm using this word attunement, I mean attuning to the deeper meaning, to how it matters. And in any case, we're always welcoming fully what arises. And if there's any part of you that does not want to welcome what arises, we welcome that. It's called the resistance. And we welcome the resistance also unconditionally. If you're angry and you don't want to be angry, you welcome the anger and the not wanting to be angry. Because obviously, the not wanting to be angry wouldn't be there if the anger wasn't there. So they're both present. And if we want to attune and feel into one of them first, we feel into the resistance first. Because if we try to skip the resistance and go straight for the anger, we will be denying a part of ourself. So I attune first to the resistance and then to the anger. The resistance always is also holding something important for me. I want to feel safe. I want to feel pleasant feelings. I don't want to feel pain. That's a natural, wonderful option that your distraction, your resistance, your protection is giving you. And then the third phase, after some time, is to engage almost like a dialogue with any part of you that holds, you could say, more of a quality of meaning. So what often happens is when we welcome unconditionally a sensation, a feeling, a thought, it will just naturally shift. It flows. It reveals itself. Unconditional loving presence is like sunshine for your heart. So like your flower, it will then blossom and open. Not because you're pulling it, not because you're trying to get somewhere, but because you're shining the sun of your loving presence. So it's an organic unfolding. You are an organic living being which just like grass grows at its own pace, not because you pull it. So that's the spirit of this second phase. And then when you find something that holds more meaning for you, that doesn't just unfold itself organically in a few moments or minutes, but stays, then you enter into a kind of engagement, attuning to the meaning that it holds. What are you holding for me? What is important in this? What would you like to tell me? What do you need? These are the kinds of questions to have in the third phase of the deeper engagement. So I like to call this a meditative process. You're in the present moment continuously. You're verbalizing continuously, but by moment, what's happening now. And you're moving organically through these phases. I'm just seeing the request for the notes, and I'm wondering if anyone is willing to summarize what I've just said. It would be hard for me to try and write it. And if you need me to repeat it for the summary, I'm open to do that. Yeah, Sana.
Yeah, so I got at least confused with the steps because you said up to 4 steps, and then suddenly after 4 you said third phase. So I got confused.
Right, thank you. Yeah.
There were sub steps there in between or something, but yeah.
No, okay, so you're tracking 4 levels of your being. You're tracking your mind and its thoughts. You're tracking your heart and its feelings. You're tracking your body and its sensations. And you're tracking the meaning behind all of those 3.
Okay.
You don't have a thought without a meaning. You don't have a feeling without a meaning. And the sensations that we're talking about are reflections of usually the feelings. So those are the 4 things that you track.
Right. Okay.
And then there's 3 phases. Phase 1, entering into this space called your inner world. Phase 2, welcoming everything that is there. And phase 3, engaging with a quality of what is there that has more meaning held in it, you could say. So that's the whole process. Yeah, Mira.
Hello. I would like to ask whether you're planning to walk us live through it now, maybe before practicing on
Yeah.
our own. It might be quite useful.
I will do that, exactly. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so then I would go into my short demo. And in the demo, I might not reach to phase 3 because it comes organically after time. And it's by definition of this process, you cannot force it or show it. So if I'm only doing a demo of maybe 5 minutes, I'll probably just do phase 1 and 2. And I'm hoping that you can somehow intuit phase 3 if and when you reach at that stage of the process. And I say if also because you don't know where you're going to end up. And there is no agenda in this process. There is no idea of getting somewhere. There is simply an accompaniment with your inner world, an attunement to your inner world through your own compassionate presence. And I use the word unconditional, and I just want to also mention what that means to me. Unconditional means unconditional in time. So whatever you're feeling, you welcome it as if you would feel it forever. You're angry and you will be angry for the rest of your life. That's unconditional in time. And as I said, like usually then within half a minute, the anger will unfold itself. But you can't trick yourself. You can't say, I will welcome you forever so that you go away in 30 seconds. You need to be real with that, really unconditional. And and also unconditional in intensity. So it can be as intense as it needs to be. And we can't say, yes, you're welcome, but could you be a little less? That's not a full welcome. This is a muscle that we grow. So if you don't manage unconditional the first time, it's really very normal. So it's not a pressure on you, but it is a direction to aspire towards and to build towards with practice. Like any human practice, repetition builds skill and you get better and better. Yeah, Karen. Or Karen.
So was that the phase 3 where you've welcomed it and then you're engaging with it no matter about the intensity? Just an example of what the third phase is it about? Just staying with the intensity and seeing what it has for you? Is that what you're saying?
No, so the unconditional welcoming is characteristic to phase 2,
Yeah.
where the unconditional in time and intensity with anything that arises. And then in phase 3, of course, I'm still extending that full welcome. And then I'm also engaging with questions like, what really matters in this? What does it really mean to me? What is important that is being held in this part of my experience? And even if you can get into dialogue, like, what do you need? What do you want to tell me? So this is the deeper engagement. And it can be done like literally like a dialogue, even like a visualization. And it could be done more intuitively, like just feeling, what does this really mean to me? And that depends on whether you're a visual person, whether you like talking to yourself or just feeling in another way. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll go into the demo now. And if there's any last questions, then we'll still take them before we go into the practice. So I'm going to treat you like my partner, and I will begin this process. So I'm just centering in myself and orienting my attention towards me and stepping into my inner world with a certain kind of reverence. And as I do that, I get goosebumps in my head. And I'm choosing just to do this experience with what's alive in me now. And just as a reminder, you could also choose to think of something that was difficult for you, painful, that you'd like to bring compassion towards. I'm just going to do it with my current experience. And I can feel a little bit of tension in my jaws. I can feel a kind of pressure in my abdomen. And I'm just being with and welcoming and becoming available to feel these sensations. And especially the tension in my jaws, it feels like there's energy there. And as I stay with it, it feels like it expands more into my cheeks. A little bit of tenderness in my eyes. And I'm getting a memory of just before this session with you, I was at a brunch and there was some awkwardness for me and I can feel that awkward feeling or uneasiness, social disease still in my system. And as I have that memory, I get more tender, my eyes are feeling soft and teary. And I'm just letting that touch me and welcoming it fully. As I do that, I feel a little sensation in my shoulder, familiar kind of wounded feeling. As I'm staying with it, I feel a vague, distant sense of anger, not very present, but somewhere far away. And I'm just saying, yes, you can be there. available to feel everything. It's welcoming. A bit of embarrassment, and it feels like it's pressure on the right side of my face. I'm embarrassed because I don't fit in. And as I say that, I feel a wave of sadness coming in. I don't fit in. And I'm just slowing down to feel it, welcome it. Sadness can be there and can speak to me. Feel it in my throat. The anger is still there, a little bit closer, but still quite far away. And again, with no sense of wanting it to be closer or farther, just saying yes. It can be where it wants to be, where it is organically. And the longing arises, I wanna fit in, and I wanna belong, and I wanna feel easy in connection, and I wanna be loved. And as I say that, something softens in my face. I feel a little bit small, like a child almost. It's a sweet feeling. It's still quite sad, but quite innocent as well. I have a lot of kind of empathy for myself and just, yes, of course you want that. Just taking a deep breath into that. Still available to feel it all. Allow it all to be there just as it is. Yeah, and I know that I could go on and that would be sweet for me, but for the sake of our time, I will come back to you. I'm wondering if that gives you the sense of what I'm inviting you into. Is there anything else you would need to know so that you can do this practice with someone else here? Yeah,
What is
Sana. Or who else was going to speak? I don't know. I saw Sana's hand.
Okay, so my question is, if I'm the one witnessing this, do you have some guidance for me? Like, do I just stay silent for the time we've agreed, or do I say something if, for example, the person goes into the story?
Yeah, I like this question, and I do encourage you to ask gentle, presencing questions if the person goes into the story. So gentle, presencing questions means, how do you feel as you say that? What's happening in your body now, thinking about those things or talking about those things? Is it hard to fully welcome that, or what happens when you do really welcome all of that in this moment? So generally, the person listening is silent, and the person processing is both the one feeling and the one welcoming. And if the person processing, goes out of the present moment, inviting them back after some time, like not immediately or not the presence police, but just after some time, saying, and now what happens in you as you're connecting to all of those experiences. So that would be my invitation for the witness. Good. I saw another hand and someone else was about to speak. I don't know if there's something still that you need for practice. Yeah, Ramona?
I just found a document with the steps,
Oh, yeah.
Is it okay if I post it? It's a PDF.
Please. Yeah. Please do. Thank you. Good. Then, okay. Sepide?
Yes, thank you. So if in the process, while there's tenderness, a judgment comes up towards what I'm seeing, then I just go into the sensation again.
You name that the judgment has come up. The judgment is there. I'm having this judgment. And you welcome the judgment fully. And then you also check, how does it feel? And what else is happening around that judgment? So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Mira.
Thank you for walking us through it. Quick question. I didn't hear you sharing in general what was the thought you're imposing in your head, so it stays for us.
Yeah, there's no need to tell anyone a story. You don't have to say, this is what happened. You can go straight into, how are you now? And
Okay, you're just
yeah, there's no need to give context to your partner or anything like that. The only reason to tell anything about the situation is for you to access it so that you can connect to what's important to you in it.
Yeah, I was wondering because it was for the sake of verbalizing it, because the rest we are verbalizing. That's why I was wondering.
If it comes up, you verbalize it. I think I said, like, I went to a brunch before coming here and felt awkward. So that was the situation. And I
Okay,
didn't know how I felt about it because I didn't bring that in first. But that's what came up because I gave myself extra space to feel. So I probably never would have realized how that had affected me if I hadn't been doing this with you now. Because I don't do this every time I come back from a brunch. Maybe I should.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So let's do the practice. I think we still have half an hour for the practice, 15 minutes each. And so I'd love you to still have that amount of time, and then we'll still have 10 minutes or so when we come back. Yeah, I think everyone, I hope you're ready, and I wish you a beautiful, diving into yourself and loving yourself, and see you on the other side. I think everyone who's left are the ones who are choosing not to practice. And I just wanted to make this half an hour available to you. If there's just anything you want to know about nonviolent communication, living compassion, we can just talk. Because I think it's also nice to have some time just to any thoughts, questions, confusions. We can just open the space. And if not, I'm happy to sit with you quietly too.
Myronel, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, please.
I really like your vulnerability. It really touches me very deeply. I am very sensitive, and I would like to show my vulnerability more. But I feel fear to expose. And
Yeah.
I have a lot of difficulties with this, especially with dominant people who try to have power over me, and I feel very small. So I can do this self-empathy with myself. My question is really, how can I use it to be in contact with people who doesn't show this vulnerability, even if I would like them to show it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for this question, Femke.
Yeah.
So I want to really connect to the sense that our vulnerability is our strength. Because by definition, vulnerability is an expression of our authenticity. It's a layer of our being which is undefended, unguarded, unmodulated by any trying to show up in a certain way. It's not behind a mask, it's not behind conditioning, it's a truth. And there's nothing stronger than the truth, the authentic sense, this is me, this is really who I am. So I really want to connect to that power in vulnerability. And yet it's important for me to understand that in a way you could say there's two qualities of vulnerability. There's a vulnerability which is connected to a younger, smaller part of ourselves, where you could say the vulnerability is a kind of regression. There's a child who with a longing who shows up. And I had that now, just in my short demo. And there was a child who just innocently wants to play, kind of showing up. And if this child part needs a particular response from the other people around, then I will only be vulnerable when I feel really safe. When I know that people will meet me with empathy, with care, with love, with compassion. And so if I can access my vulnerability while remaining very much established in my own adult fullness, then I can show up vulnerable without needing the outer world to respond in any particular way. There could still be a child in me present, an innocent little boy who wants to play. But I am the adult one who holds that boy. I am the one who says, it's so sweet to be with you, and I totally get that you want to play. And when I am that for myself, I don't need other people to be that for me. So I sometimes call this the centered vulnerability, because I remain the adult presence who holds the tender parts, who holds the young parts. So I don't need other adults to do that for me. And then if people respond with kindness and care, and they say, oh, wow, it's touching, or they respond with weirdness, like, oh, what's wrong with you? That's not my business. I don't need you to be in any way with me because I'm there for myself. And those are two really different qualities of vulnerability. And I'm in contact with both of them, I'd say regularly. And I know that when I'm in my wounded vulnerability, I won't show that to people who cannot be tender with me. And if I'm in spaces, like I would call this one such a space, like I'm not going to be with you as a facilitator doing a demo, suddenly needing you to hold my child part. Because I know I only got 5 minutes and then I'm going to come back to my full adult and send you off to groups. I mean, well, Magdalena did that and then now talk to you like this. So I need to know that I'm the adult that I need me to be for the young one who's coming up very tender, very vulnerable. So the capacity to meet yourself in your vulnerability allows you to be vulnerable anywhere, anytime, with anyone. Of course, within the limits, you're not still going to show up super open, vulnerable when there's hostility towards you. I mean, we still have protective layers for a good reason. I wonder if that's helpful as a perspective.
Yeah, very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I just read the message about concluding the self-compassion process. And it's actually very similar to what I just said about making sure that I really fully reestablish my adult sense. Because what I think is really beautiful in self-compassion is that the process is asking me to inhabit and fully identify with my own capacity to love. I cannot do self-compassion if I'm not accessing compassion. So the fullest loving, compassionate part of me is the one who's leading this process, guiding this process. So in the process, I hold, of course, parts of me that long for that care and that attention and that holding, and I become a loving force within myself. So in the end, I want to just acknowledge how I am such a force of my own being. And I really anchor in that. Yeah. So it's difficult to say more about it, but it's about affirming the adult presence. An adult is someone who has power, who can get what she needs by herself without needing others. So it's sort of an independent, or at least interdependent, without needing any particular other. Could be some other, but not another particular person. And an adult has patience. An adult can wait to get what they need later and not right now. So to affirm this dimension of my own presence is how I would step out of the process. And often if I am with a young part, I'm holding an inner child, I will also say goodbye. And if there's a sense that that child would really need more of my loving presence, I'll say, I'll be back. So it's a very sweet moment where I could say, like, I see you, I feel you, I recognize you, I will be back for you. And right now I'm moving into something else. And there's that agreement that I make with my inner world. This isn't the end of our contact. This might be a beginning or just another moment of that contact. Yeah. I wouldn't go back into the demo because it would be a little bit too much emotional gymnastics for me to go into the vulnerability, come back out, and I'll go back in and yeah. And I'd rather also, I see Annalise having a question maybe, so I'd rather carry on in this space rather than try and yeah, shift again. But I hope that helps at least a little. Annalise, you're muted still, I think. Annalise, if you want us to hear you. Yeah.
Yes, that would be helpful. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Isak, good morning. Hello from Canada. And I just really appreciate the way you broke this down for my brain to understand the whole process of this all, because you broke it down like the ingredients of a big Schwarzwälder Kirschtorte or a Black Forest cake. All of the things that go into it in the order that it should be. And I really appreciate that. And so I understand that I should go to this process for myself before interacting with you. And then when I interact with you, I do I try the same process. And if I reach hostility, or I know I'm going into a situation this afternoon with my parents and it's hostile for various reasons, then is it naive of me to try any of this? Or if my mother gets mad, just me saying hello, I can pick up a plate and or fill up my glass of water, she'll get mad. There's grief and stuff going on. It's okay. But she will greet me with hostility. So my choice is not to go, which is breaking the relationship. And she's 91 and my dad's 97. They need my help. And so there's some options. But do you have some more to say about being greeted with hostility at any point and being that triggered and seeing that wounded self in someone else.
Yeah, for sure. First of all, to the question, is it naive? It could be a little bit like trying to learn to swim in a storm. So it's like it's not ideal conditions. You don't try to learn to swim when the waves are really high. Hopefully you were learning in a pool, which was very calm for many years before you have to swim in a storm. And family emotions and family conflicts are the biggest emotional storms because the waves within the others are the waves within you because your psyches are so interlinked by being family. And yet, I would still say, if you're choosing to go, this attitude and this approach can absolutely serve you. You could, for example, do even 5-10 minutes of self-compassion, like a meditation, before going, so that there's some energy of compassion already, let's say, in your system. But I want to be clear: it's compassion for you, self-compassion. It's compassion for how hard it is for you to face your parents and the hostility that you might face. Because the idea here is that when you have compassion for yourself, it will naturally overflow to the others. But if you try to have compassion for others, and you've left yourself behind, you will naturally resent them for having left yourself behind, even though you did that.
And it will play out in a pattern. Like the other person will leave me in, say, a romantic relationship, because I leave myself behind all the time.
Exactly.
And you left me. No, I already left myself right now while you're still in the room.
Exactly. So don't leave yourself behind is the big invitation here. Yeah. So you pick up your glass of water, you get a hostile remark, and you just breathe into how that feels for you. And you love yourself in that. Oh, wow, I wouldn't want to hear that right now. Oh, wow, it took 7 seconds and we're already in this. That's not nice for me. And that hopefully gives you just that extra little bit of space to have a little more empathy, a little more compassion, to be able to say, I totally get that you're frustrated and there's so much you'd want to be different and you wish I would be different. And I know that that's hard, or whatever empathy means in that moment.
To the other person.
To the other person.
That.
Yeah. And the only other thing I would mention here is to have a parking lot. And a parking lot is the space in which you can put aside your own feelings.
Very important.
It doesn't mean denying your own feelings. It just means parking them till later when you have conditions to attend to yourself. Have a parking lot and track when your parking lot is full. Because if you've put aside your emotions and it's full, don't pretend you can keep filling it. You cannot. You have a limit. Everyone has a limit. Know your limit, track your limit, and when you've reached your limit, walk away. Walk away means you go for a walk outside, you say, I just need some air. Walk away means, being quiet in a room by yourself. Walk away means phoning a friend who loves you and who you love and getting a little more space. Going past your own limit is just a recipe for the storm really hitting hard.
It doesn't go anywhere. And I think because we still have an hour together, or they're not going to dinner until 4:00, that
exactly.
I have to stay. And I really have found and watched the timetable that if I can maintain myself for 10 minutes, pretty good. What happens at 20? What happens at 30? And by 45, I'm done.
Exactly. That's your tracking. And then by 35, you're already walking away for 15 minutes or whatever, just to let your own nervous system calm down, just to go into a forest and grunt and growl and moan and groan, or whatever that means. Shake it out, whatever, deep breaths with sounding out with the out breath. That has so much power for the nervous system. And then you come back and your parking lot might be just a little more spacious. And it's work. It's called emotional labor. So you think of it as work. You don't think of it as a pleasant afternoon. You think of it, and now I'm going to do labor. I'm doing
Okay.
emotional
It's not a
work.
visit.
It's not a visit, it's a workout for your emotional
Very
muscles.
nice. That's really awesome. That takes up so much pressure away from me that if I take anything away, I take away much from this conference. I'm so appreciative. But this is huge for me because it settles it. And it doesn't always, I don't think we're done, but this part of NVC is often, I don't hear it much because when we run into the hostility, the wall of the other, and that idea of a parking lot, I'm full. I mean, we talk about a pause, and I say in pause when I'm stressed, but that there's capacity, mine and the other, and to observe, and to what I bring into that room. If I bring in loving presence into that room, it stays longer. It's
Totally.
room. It's like bringing flowers. They're there.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That really makes a big difference, I think, in our family going forward with me being different.
Yeah,
Bye.
that's exactly what you can bring. Yeah. And yeah, I really hope it goes as well as possible today.
I'll just think of this conversation and all the lovely people here, and I'll expect that of myself to be able to be real,
Yeah.
authentic, and take care of myself. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. And I see that in the other, because like you said, the psyches are, I'm empathetic and I understand my mom's pain. So I let it happen. Or the guy that I'm dating, I see his pain and I let it happen, but he's abusing me.
Yeah. So
Emotionally, physically.
you
Yeah.
let his pain happen, and then you put important boundaries for yourself and what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
So those are not contradictory. Letting it happen does not mean not having boundaries.
Okay.
His pain is fully welcome. His crossing of your boundaries is not welcome at all.
That's a good distinction. Yeah. Thank you.
The key to freedom in life is our relationship with pain. If we can have an open relationship, then we can be free, even in the face of pain. If we have a resistance relationship, an addiction relationship, a violent expression relationship, then we're not free, and we need boundaries for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I saw Freda had a question, perhaps, or maybe it's past the moment.
Yes, I did. I do. Thank you, Manila. It's been really comforting to hear what you have to say, and so enlightening. It reminds me of Rumi's guest house, about what we welcome in our soul, everything in terms of emotions. It just triggered something that happened very recently yesterday, and I won't go into the narrative, but it was a feeling when someone expresses how they feel, and it's probably said in quite a clumsy way because not everyone is activating NVC every day as you're coming out of the car or if you're walking down the street, etc. But it's somebody who I know quite well, very well. And what was interesting is that it felt a little bit like blame, but in a situation where I could see a lot of hurt. I offered a lot of love, and what I found is that I didn't react more than respond. But at the same time, there's like this residual feeling that when is there a need to sort of respond, I guess, in a situation where you feel it was of the moment, and the person was relaying how they felt, not heard. you know, and so it was like incumbent upon me to listen. Otherwise, I'm perpetuating that feeling. Um, and so the response was that we'll give space. I knew it was actually a whole set of other things that were happening in that person's life that were causing that reaction. But what happens later when you're sort of processing as I am at the moment, like, is it sort of let go? Doesn't matter that it was blame, the person's coming from the source of pain, or is it let's talk this through, and that how it lands, does it matter? Or the impact on me, is it a dialogic kind of relationship, or is it the space where you just hold space for the person to talk about their pain? I'd be really interested to know your thoughts on reaction and response.
Yeah, thank you. So I don't think there would be any, of course, formula or straight answer to the question. So the overall answer is, of course, it depends on perhaps even myriad factors. When we can respond, of course, that means we're in our freedom and we have choicefulness. And so that's always going to be more attuned to how we really want to show up. And when we're reactive. And that wasn't possible for us to do differently because by definition, we were not free in that. So first of all, yeah, like it's absolutely wonderful to cultivate the responsiveness. And then the question is, what is your authentic response now? Because perhaps in that moment, your authentic response was, yes, I'm going to put myself aside and be there available for this person who I know is having a hard time. And I want to be the friend that is loving and supportive. And then later, which is now, you're asking yourself, how does that stay with me? And it really depends on what is the balance of energy and flow in this relationship. Because if there's a general trust in the flow, this person can show up in their, let's call it, hard moment, and I'll be there for them. And yes, they weren't super kind to me. And yes, they weren't very patient. And yes, they were kind of blaming me for something that I don't resonate having contributed to. And that's okay because they will be there for me next time, and there's balance and flow. And if there's more of a sense that this is draining, this is chronically a one-way relationship, or I'm doing all the emotional labor here, I'm the one always putting on the giraffe ears and receiving jackals and then translating them, and that's not a nourishing relationship for me. That's not balanced for me. Then we need to hold some care for this relational space to make it sustainable. So it's like then you engage with that person about the need for maybe balance and flow, or the need for boundaries, because you want to stay connected and because you want that connection to be sustainable. So it's a very loving thing to do. I care about you and I care about us, so I really want this us to work for me and you for a longer time and not reach a point where I won't enjoy this anymore. And then what I find really helpful in this is to make the distinction between the personal issues and the relational issues. So if a person is in pain for any reason, even if it is because of something that I did that they are blaming me for, they are still personally responsible for their pain. I might have triggered someone, but that doesn't make me the source of their pain. That makes me a stimulus for a pain that in almost all cases was already stored within them. So when I am, and the same with me, if I'm triggered, if I'm hurt, that's me, that's mine. And then the relational space is, how do I hold you with care, knowing that there are things that are painful for you? And how do you hold me with care, knowing that there are things that are painful for me? And that's not the same as taking on the other person's pain. That's taking on a certain care for how we relate to each other. So that clarity is basically the difference between a codependency and an interdependence. And so then if there is any kind of sense that there's a chronic projection of pain onto each other, blaming each other even subtly, then the invitation would be to step towards interdependence, to say, it's important for me to take responsibility for my pain. It's important for me that I'm not carrying your pain. And what would it mean for us to have a relational space where we take care of our interaction, but we don't take responsibility of our each other's trauma, to put it simply. I wonder how that's resonating, if that's helpful.
Thank you. That was super helpful and really enlightening. It resonates entirely, actually. It's strange because I felt a little bit confused because I felt very calm in that process and I just wanted to hold space. And then subsequently, is that the jackal in the moment where it sort of starts to say, but that felt a little bit like blame. And should I feel ashamed, or is this I guess it's a distinction between the feeling of the person at the moment and my interpretation of that feeling. Sorry, my earpods just dropped.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it kind of felt, that there was it's like it's lingering, but not in a bad way. I'm reflecting that I'm happy I held space. But do I need to do something else? And I don't know if I do. And actually, this has kind of resonated that I don't think I do need to do anything else because I felt comfortable in holding that space. And the person did own their kind of triggering point because they acknowledged it was something that had occurred. So in their past, and if it was me that said it or someone else said it, but they were comfortable enough to be vulnerable to say it. And for that, I'm very grateful that they could be vulnerable because they trust me. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah.
So then you can just attune to yourself and say, I was happy to hold that space, and that's my truth. And thoughts about should I be ashamed, they're coming from somewhere else. And that might still want my attention, but then it's more that this relationship is mirroring something in you that is insecure, something in you that wants to make sure you're okay. And then in a way, that's then your responsibility to attend to that. And that's that person mirroring something in you, even if subtly, that wants to be felt. But not because there's an issue in your relational space, but just because you're actually, like all relationships do, mirroring each other. So I saw your hand, Susan, but we'll go now to the debriefing of the process. So welcoming everyone who was practicing back and opening the space with curiosity. How did it go? Anyone who's willing to share? I see some balloons, taking that as a celebration. Loads of resistance. Yeah, I can. I'll just mention a word about the resistance. The resistance is a protective layer. And your resistance to feel what you're feeling is protecting you from the pain of feeling it. And if you can show up in relation to the resistance with a lot of loving presence, then it will dissolve to allow you to feel what's behind it. And if you can't, then that protective layer is almost like it's saying, look, if you can't get through me, you have no business feeling what I'm protecting you from. So I really want to bring gratitude to the protection. Because if I'm not somehow, you could say, bringing enough presence to hold the protection, then I won't have enough presence to meet what it's protecting me from. So it's almost like a mechanics of your inner world, and it has wisdom. So I really don't blame my protection for keeping me out. I thank my protection for keeping me out until I'm present enough to welcome that resistance enough. And even with the gratitude actually really is a kind of a secret key for the resistance. Thank you, resistance. And then organically, I've kind of proved that I'm present enough, and it lets me feel. Yeah. Mira, how was it?
It was quite interesting. What I understood is that we actually accompany ourselves through the feelings body we have from the body, the thoughts, the sensations. And the situation I think I was speaking about the environment as well. I don't know whether this in general it's fine about certain things which were coming to my mind at the moment I was sharing. And certain sensations in the body have appeared which were more intense in feeling at the beginning, but the more I was giving space to them and trying gently to see what's behind, they started ceasing and calming down, and I felt more lightness. I'm not quite sure whether I was able to connect with the deeper meaning, what my feelings and thoughts and body is trying to tell me, or maybe yes, but it was unfolding itself in a beautiful way. And yeah, at some point I was trying to allow myself to experience more of the feelings, like, for example, if I was feeling angry or blaming or something, to let it be, not to suppress it, not to put it under the carpet. Yeah, and I was just accompanying myself. I was not telling myself that, I should. No, I was not giving compassion. I was just experiencing and let it be. And this is what I understood, not compassion, the empathy. I was not giving empathy, but I understood that compassion is just accompanying myself and letting it be the way it is.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Thank you.
I'm glad. Thank you.
Yeah.
Leanne.
Yeah, I wonder if it's okay if I can say something about the resistance piece that was just mentioned a minute ago.
Sure.
Yeah, I was thinking about my own experience, and when I explore my feelings and my needs when I'm in a stuck place, sometimes it's hard to intellectualize the experience. So I find that other forms of expression can be really useful, whether that be drawing or music or dance. But just moving the parts of my body where I feel the tension can really help to work it through. And through that process of somatic experience, maybe it becomes more approachable.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, with that, I want to be really careful not to get into a kind of an agenda. I want to dissolve this, or I need to get past it. Because when we get into an agenda mindset, we're already stepping out of the welcoming mindset. We're already stepping out of the accompaniment. We're now trying to get somewhere. So moving the body and having other ways of holding energy, I totally am in for that. As long as we still do it from because I want to be with myself. And this is what my body would express, which is different from because I want to get somewhere. Yeah. Thank you. Sepide.
There's a question, and I don't really know how to say it, but it's this fine line between being with what is and welcoming it. There's something there. It's almost like I don't know. On some subtle level, I don't know how to go from being with and welcoming.
Yeah, there's just a subtle difference, as I recognize that. Welcoming is really the affirming that this experience is allowed, I'm available for it, I trust that there's wisdom in this energy, in this emotion, in this longing, whatever it is. So it's a bit more than being with. Being with is already, can have a lot of that quality as well, but giving a full-hearted yes, that's my life energy. Yes, that's me, life welling up in me, and I know it has a reason. I know it has a meaning, and I'm curious about it. It's totally welcome. So, and according to, of course, what you meet, that is very available, or that's not so available, and then you have your degrees, let's say, of welcoming, according to how hard it is. Yeah. Sarah, and I think we're also about out of time, so we'll maybe just have last comment and then close.
Yeah, I want to share that was very beautiful and powerful for me, especially the fact that you speak it loud. It was the first time for me to and speak loud your resistance, the judgments, when you judge that you are feeling that way, certain things, and you say loud and it dissolve. As soon as I say, it dissolve and I create space and I cry and also was beautiful to have the presence. She was completely silent, but I could feel it and it was really, I felt hold. Yeah, it was very beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so glad. I'm celebrating with you and resonating with everything, including the beautiful holding presence, even of a silent person. It's so valuable. It's so valuable. Even if you're super good at this kind of thing, the beauty of a person holding you is still so important. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for this time, and hope to see you in another such space. And be well.